to address together in our...
Good afternoon, distinguished guests here. Part of Mr. Bryan's speech, I would like to go ahead with a different story because I have been watching this situation for last 30 plus years in Europe because I live here for 40 years. In this situation, we have been monitoring all these sides, all these topics, all these violations, war and things done at the UNHRC, 30/1, 40/1, and I don't know which stroke to come in. So there are more and more strokes against Sri Lanka, but the things are being solved and people doesn't know about it. Why I am saying this? Now, we had a conflict for 30 plus years of war between Tamils and Sri Lankan other communities. I would say, including the Muslims, Sinhalese, Burgher, Malay, all were suffering for 30 years war, and it was brutal for every nation in our country. Even foreigners who visited us was killed. What happened then? Then in 2009, we concluded the war. We eliminate the terrorism, and we brought the peace, whatever it's called. Then we started develop this country for the last almost 15 years. Now 15 years been passed, and still we are at the UN talking about human rights, violations, killing each other, and all these things. Now, to my mind, I just want to say in few words, the LTTE propaganda collected billions and billions of money from the poor Tamils. They smuggled the people to Europe. I've been working at the German police for 20 years, and I have seen how they smuggle the people, how they create the bogus stories, which was happened in 1983. It was civil rights, and then civil rights, and then 475 people was killed, and from that, half of them were Muslims and Sinhalese and Burgher and Malay from the both sides. They smuggled those pictures to the Europe, and they show that they were killed by the Sinhalese, and they fabricated the stories here to get the asylum. So, after getting the refugee status, few million came to Europe. Switzerland, France, England mainly, Norway, and those countries are the most embassies who have given the visas to migrate those people here. What they have done? They came here, earned money, 20%, 30% they were given back to the LTT organization to buy weapons against our country. Our country means Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, Burgher, Malay, all. We were living peacefully in this country. What happened then? They bought ammunition, things like that. They kill each other for 30 years. Now what happened? After the war finished, they have no other reason to collect the money. But still they are doing it. Nobody knows until now, mostly the Tamil people who invest on this, thinking of peace, they have no idea what is going on now. All the guys, the ex-cadres, the big bosses of LTT, the World Tamil Organizations, lived and living in these countries. They took those money back to Sri Lanka, and now they started mass projects. And where is this problem now? Now still I see some Tamils are here roaming around, telling the same story, getting money, funds to their NGOs, living here, talking bullshit at the UN, using so many NGOs against us. Against us mean all Sri Lankans. And we have to stop this by now. We have so much evidence. I don't want to mention the names here. All these Tamils, now I am connected with them because I know them from last 30 years. And they are now very happily living in Sri Lanka, investing billions for the last 1 year or more. They came back to Sri Lanka. So where is the problem now? Still, are we going to debate here for their rights? We have given their rights. They collect the money, they kill each other. We have 25,000 disabled soldiers, or 35,000, 23,000 without parents. And the other side, so many dead cadres of LTT. How are we going to tell those people now what is now what is happening in Sri Lanka? So this is unfair. We all have to raise this situation, not like this, in a huge scale, under that chair in the September session, because these false allegations we have to stop right now. All the big bosses are in Sri Lanka. You can just check in Google. Billions invested. They make a huge park for the children, like Disney in Jaffna. Who are the investors? Those people who fabricated stories against majority Sinhalese are now there back. How are you going to tell those to these people now? Do they know this? No, I don't think so. So this is the real fact now. Whatever the history, I know the colonial side from 1505, we were under 3 or 4 nations from Europe. We were like slaves. They create us. When they left us in 1948, we were given party politics, racism. They have appointed minority against the majority. So the racism came. That part. Majority was kept aside, without any things. So we have been treated like slaves until today, even. The big powers, they are coming now. What is happening in Sri Lanka? China, we have a conflict. India, we have a conflict. The Western powers, we have a conflict in Sri Lanka. Because geopolitically, our country is a very important place. Everybody can come and do their business, we don't mind. But if somebody is going to grab our airports, the harbors, and creating those, this is the next war. We will be in the middle of the war in no time, because all superpowers are in the Indian Ocean. Geopolitically, Sri Lanka is a very valuable place. So my point is, now we have to tell the big bosses, look guys, we have enough wars. We need to breathe again. We need our children to be safe. So Tamils and Muslims and Sinhalese, we don't have any problems. I have here Muslim friends. I have Tamils here. We are living together. We are working together. We are drinking together. We go party together. We have no conflict. So why is that in the UN inside the UN building? Why we are fighting each other? For what? Because some people only need their money, they want to retain, and they are just trying to fool us, everybody. So we have to stop this. I invite all of you in September. We really have to raise this in higher scale at the UN. So otherwise, we have to stop those fundraisers feeding their fat bellies, and this has to be stopped. This is only game of money, nothing else. The problem is somewhere else. They have to go to Jaffna. From Kilinochchi, Vaunia, you go and see what are the developments there after this bloody war. We saw the people came out of the war zone. only with the underwears, no clothes, no, they don't have basic needs. Women came with children. We have seen it when the war stops. So now everybody is very happy. So we don't need any more conflict in Sri Lanka. So Tamils and the Muslims and the Sinhalese has to understand this. And we have to stop the bogus stories spreading in this house. And I don't want to talk more. I gave you a short note because this is the truth. Whatever I have experienced for last 30 years or 35 years in Europe, we have seen it, we have experienced it, and we have eliminated that problem too. We don't have to continue anymore. All need peace, nothing else. Thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Senator. Now I'm inviting Mr. Prashant Veerapurage.
So, good afternoon, everybody. My topic is reconciliation in Sri Lanka. So, is the Tamil diaspora driving force lasting peace in Sri Lanka or stubborn obstacle to reconciliation? On the 9th of May of this year, Sri Lanka will celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Armed Forces' glorious victory over the terrorist fighters of LTT. Once the world's most potent and body's terrorist group beginning the campaign of terror. The heroes of Sri Lankan Armed Forces routed the LTT, leaving it without effective leadership and the necessary fighting morale among the cadres. The LTT conducted a brutal and protracted war lasting almost 30 years. The end, however, came safely with the massive firepower and the tactical acumen of the joint Sri Lankan forces, which proved to be too overwhelming even the LTT. However, almost 30 years of a brutal and debilitating conflict, followed by 15 years of terror fire existence. Sri Lanka is still unable to enjoy the dividends of peace and social and economic stability. It is indeed ironic that the first nation in the world to encourage the terrorist group comprehensively should continue to suffer an aftermath of 3 decades of conflict. Indeed, it is not a lack of will or interest of the government or civil society that real peace and stability are still awaiting this nation. In almost 3 decades, the relentless fighting, Sri Lanka was firmly intent on containing the fight within the shores of the island and identified the conflict as a military campaign against the terrorist group. Neither the government of Sri Lanka nor the general public or the civil society saw the conflict as a fight between the government and the Tamil community, in whose names LTT are claimed to be fighting to carve out the separate state, the so-called Tamil on the island. In this 30 years campaign, the LTT managed for some years to control a large set of land, including the part of the Jaffna Peninsula. At the time, the government of Sri Lanka believed it was incumbent on them to pay salaries to all government personnel, including school and hospital staff, local government personnel, etc. Even the areas under the control of the terrorists. Furthermore, the government believes that it was duty-bound to provide basic food supplies, medicine and other essential for its its citizens living under the control of the LTT. The government role in providing essential supplies to its citizens in vital fact that Tamil, Ilamis and LTTE apologized often try to suppress when they attempt to overplay and discrimination against the Tamil by the Sri Lankan government. We firmly believe Sri Lanka cannot enjoy the benefit of the much year for peace because seeds of conflict germinated outside the shores of the island in Britain and India. Foreign interference further exacerbated the conflict, and the threat of foreign intervention still hang over Sri Lanka. It is sad and disturbing fact in even UNHCR has failed to grasp. Indeed, the fundamental mistake of the UNHCR is seeking to resolve the conflict through active involvement in the process. It must understand that the process of reconciliation and resolution is a domestic matter. The internationalization of process will only reignite the conflict, leading the further destabilization in Sri Lanka. Undoubtedly, the people of Sri Lanka deserve and are entitled to more than that. As we pointed out earlier, the internationalization of the conflict was inevitable, but the role that the Tamil diaspora would play during the after-war, indeed not. The diaspora played enormous part in financing the LTT and its brutal terrorist war in Sri Lanka. It also played a significant part in influencing Western nations as well as some African and ASEAN countries to take a negative view of Sri Lanka and desperate fight to protect the citizen and territorial integrity of the island nation. Europe and the US shunned Sri Lanka and supported the Tamil cause. It was only years later, after the 9/11 terror, that the US and the EU banned the LTT. However, Tamil diaspora never fell out of favor in the West. Indeed, in Canada, it has the unfolding support of the Canadian government. Indeed, the Tamil diaspora has to understand that if they are not willing party of a serious dialogue for peace and justice in Sri Lanka, then will be a matter of time before they lose their seat at the table of reconciliation and resolution. We sincerely hope the Tamil diaspora will not be an obstacle of reconciliation. We believe diaspora will not ignore the vital interest of the Tamil community in Sri Lanka. Instead, they will stand on the right side of history. I thank you.
Thank you, Roshan. I'm going to give a very brief reading about something very important that has been discussed and always raising during the Human Rights Council sessions all the time. We have seen many speeches from our Tamil community that saying Sri Lankan government as well as the majority Sri Lankan Sinhalese are violating rights of the Tamils in North and East, not only North and East, Tamils in Sri Lanka. So I'm going to briefly give some points that our view in regards to that question they're raising all the time. So on our view, we believe that Tamils' rights are always protected. Not only Tamils' right, it's a citizen's right. Either you are a Sri Lankan, either you are a Sinhalese, you are a Tamil, you're Muslim, any race, any religious group that you belongs, your rights are protected in Sri Lanka. Why I'm saying that? Sri Lanka has well-established laws and practices to ensure that no citizen shall be discriminated on the ground of race, language, caste, sex, political opinion, or any such grounds. Sri Lanka has also taken steps to address the manifold challenges in line with the National Plan of Action for Implementation of Recommendations of Lessons and Learned Reconciliation Commission (LLRC), which seeks to promote intercommunal and interreligious understandings in the reconciliation processes, as well as address grievances and grant redress to those who have been victims and those rights have been violated on the grounds of ethnicity or religion. The material placed before the LLRC covered a broad range of complex issues of various nature, resulting in a need of the Commission to identify the issues which the Commission deemed necessary to deal with. In terms of mandate and its stated objectives, there is no cookie cutter solution for ethnic solution in Sri Lanka. All stakeholders must work very closely to address the issues to find sustainable solution. One of the major obstacles is poverty and lack of access to resources. Those are common challenges in most of the developing countries, not only Tamils living in North and East. We have seen in 2022, Sri Lanka had something very different to many of the countries. That Sri Lankans altogether, including Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, and all the other ethnic groups, everybody get together and ousted one of the presidents elected with the overwhelming majority within 2 years of his reign. Why? Not because that Sinhalese are being prejudiced or Sinhalese being victimized for something, not because of Tamils are victimized or not because of the problems raised by the Muslims, because it is the common ground, because of the economic reasons. There's no other reason to describe that uprising in 2022. So, as we believe that the Tamils' rights are always protected, including all the Sri Lankans' rights, not just only Tamils living in North and East. So North and East Tamils are also Sri Lankans. Hard-working people, we know that, contributing to the country's economy, same as everyone else in Sri Lanka. Always that Tamil sympathizers are raising questions about these discrimination issues, raising questions about the violation of their rights, but it is the rights of all of the citizens of Sri Lanka, Sinhalese. It is something common in the part of the region, not only Sri Lanka. It's mainly the poverty, mainly the economic reasons. We have so when we look at the reconciliation, why we are not getting the reconciliation? Now the war has ended more than 10 years ago, but still people are talking about the reconciliation and we are talking about problems in Sri Lanka. Why we can't get to a common ground and finish this off? The problem is that the Tamil questions, their speeches and their work in the international community is kind of an obstacle to the reconciliation. We have been noted separatist groups are located in overseas to continue promote hate among ethnic groups even after the war. It has been a real obstacle for ethnic harmony in Sri Lanka. Most importantly, none of the groups ever provided support Tamils in Sri Lanka, as my friend always mentioned earlier. Further, none of them wanted to go back and live in North and East. Their main intention to create a dispute among the Tamils and other groups, including the Sri Lankan government. Unfortunately, so long as the Tamil diaspora is not committed to genuine reconciliation and a unitary state of Sri Lanka. However, there is a recent small development. However, we have seen a different approach from some of the Tamil activist groups recently. It seems that deriving away from their separatist agenda, they have recently come up with somewhat different approach. We have seen in some different news articles published in various platforms, a joint Himalayan declaration that was presented to the President Ranil Wickremesinghe and was discussed with the Speaker and members of the Parliament. It is being played out with the subject GTF leader Mr. Surendran promising the Sinhala audience they do not stand for a separate Tamil state. This out in the cloud initiative is being carried to elite Sinhala Buddhist representation for publicity. The Joint Himalayan Declaration, the output of dialogue between the Buddhist delegation and the Global Tamil Forum, the GTF, the once powerful Tamil umbrella organization that was blacklisted by the Sri Lankan government for allegedly funding terrorist activities, is that least development to stir tension among the Tamil population. Presented to Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who promised to consider many of the measures outlined in the document. The declaration is simple and covers 6 thematic areas. 1. Promoting a pluralist society. 2. Overcoming the economic crisis. 3. Drafting a new constitution that guarantees individual and collective rights. 4. Acceptance of religious and ethnic groups. 5. Fifth one, working towards reconciliation. 6. Compliance with bilateral and multilateral treaties. So there are no separate states in their demands. So they have been canvassing, they have been trying to establish the fact that the northern is belong to the Sri Lanka, the Tamils living in there, they want a separate state, but it's not happening now. So this is one of the vocal groups, the GTF is one of the vocal groups that the activists that they are behind the separate state. So what is all this present by about 6 sentences called the Himalayan